Leadership isn't tested when things are calm. It's revealed when you're under pressure, when conversations are uncomfortable, and when expectations are unclear. You're emotionally overloaded, but still expected to perform. So burnout doesn't start with workload, it starts with emotional load. This doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how others experience your leadership. Burnout isn't just exhaustion. It happens when capable women spend too long managing everyone else's emotions, second guessing themselves internally, suppressing the frustration, fear, and disappointment, and most of all, staying professional while feeling unseen and stretched. This constant emotional self-management just drains our inner fitness faster than longer hours ever will. And we're seeing this clearly in the research. In a recent University of New South Wales report in 2025, 40% of women identified lack of confidence in their abilities as a key barrier to their next step. 72% said they experienced burnout in the past 12 months. And when asked why, 61% cited the pressure of balancing work and home, and 49% said long hours were a major factor. That's a brutal combination, of feeling invisible, exhausted, and carrying everything, and still feeling like it's not enough. And on top of all that, there's this constant mental load. So in the Deloitte's Women at Work 2025 report, 22% of women said their mental load is too high. And among the women who worked beyond their contracted hours, only 15% rated their mental health as good. And can you blame them? The message is clear. Overworking isn't creating visibility, it's creating burnout. Without emotional mastery, your decision making becomes reactive and communication just becomes inconsistent. Confidence fluctuates and, our boundaries go out the door. And this is why so many women leaders who are high performing but are depleted, who might be very visible because they're doing so much work but not influential. So emotional mastery is a burnout prevention strategy. So by mastering your emotions, it's not about coping better. It's about leaking less energy. And when emotional mastery is missing, our energy leaks through all those overthinking conversations, replaying moments you had wished that you'd had differently. They should have said this and should have said that. Avoiding the difficult discussions and carrying emotional responsibility that isn't yours. So using a mindset reboot, you can break the burnout loop. And under pressure, most leaders don't stop and think, they just push through. Pushing is often rewarded. Until it isn't. So burnout isn't created by one single crisis. It's built through repeated leadership responses that prioritize endurance over real sustainability. In high pressure environments, many women leaders default to mindsets that once helped them succeed, but are now just quietly draining their energy and eroding their influence. A mindset reboot is a shift from pushing through to leading consciously. And it moves leadership from an endurance race to something that's sustainable. Letting go of the constant survival mode and leading in ways that can actually be maintained in the long term. To replacing that reactive self-management with internal and intentional leadership responses. These shifts don't remove the pressure, they change how the pressure is carried within you. So when mindset evolves, the emotional load reduces and your energy stabilizes and leadership presence strengthens. And this is where burnout begins to unwind. Not through less responsibility, but through more self-led authority. And this is something that I found in my career. The more I tried to push and work harder to try and improve myself, I just felt like I was standing still career-wise. It was only when I let go of that, when I actually took a deep breath, took stock of my sort of what I was carrying, and I'm not talking about workload, but what I was carrying emotionally, that's when I was able to actually move forward quite dramatically in my career. So instead of asking, how do I push through? I invite you to ask, what's the most self-led response here? That question alone changes your nervous system and your leadership capacity. Burnout is often reinforced by how we communicate under pressure. Unconsciously, many women often over-explain to be understood, soften the message to avoid the conflict, and very often we say yes when we actually mean, well, no. And how many times have we apologized for taking up space? Each of these costs energy. So now let's move from understanding to application and make all of this that we've discussed today really practical. The next few insights and practices are designed as practical takeaways to help you notice your emotional patterns earlier and respond more consciously and recover your energy faster. So one of the most important anchors for this is the awareness triad: mindfulness, journaling, and reflection. It is such a simple but transformational practice that builds awareness, emotional control, and inner fitness consistently. So I invite you to start incorporating mindfulness practices into your daily routine. There are many mindfulness meditations on YouTube and Spotify that you can choose from. And set aside some time every day to observe your thoughts, but just without judgment. Write it down. It's a great way to express your thoughts and experiences and feelings, and use this practice to release pent-up emotions and gain clarity. Reflect on your writings to uncover the deeper insights about yourself, your values, and your life's direction, because that's actually where the gold is. You get to know yourself a bit better every day. Notice the language you use, both verbally and in your head. Mind chatter can be particularly destructive. So empowered language is not about being assertive for the sake of it. It's about speaking in ways that preserve your inner fitness. And this includes learning to state expectations really clearly. Hold your boundaries without over-justifying. And use calm, grounded language instead of emotional buffering. And communicate from a place of presence, not pressure. When language is clean, emotional recovery is so much faster. Emotional intelligence is often misunderstood as being good with people, because in reality, it's actually your ability to recognize emotional signals early, to regulate your internal response to them, and to stay present without absorbing everybody else's stress and energy that's going. So choosing influence over reactivity is a sign of your inner fitness. You don't need to be less caring. You need to be less drained. And emotional intelligence allows you to stay connected without burning yourself out. Because burnout is not a personal failure. When emotional mastery is missing, that's when burnout actually fills in the gaps. But when inner fitness is strong, your leadership is going to be so different. Your confidence becomes less fragile, and the energy just your personal energy becomes sustainable during the course of a day, and your impact is really noticeable. This is actually growth EQ leadership in action. And one of the most important inner fitness muscles for women leading in high pressure environments is this inner fitness that you can develop so that you can stand and show up in that place. So if this lesson helped you see where emotional load may be draining your leadership energy, the next step is to get personalized clarity. If you're ready to strengthen your inner fitness and accelerate your leadership impact, then reach out for a one-on-one leadership clarity session. I only open up a few of these spots in my calendar each week, so book your call now, and together we can identify your biggest growth leverage points and hidden energy drains and the leadership capabilities that will move you forward faster. So see you in the next video. Cheers.